Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had a lot of discussion about this bill in our hearings. Mr. Chairman, we've covered many topics on the floor, in committee hearings, so my questions today will be focused on the Houston districts and the changes to my home district, the current CD29. The latest map, Plan C2333, shifts population in Baytown from CD9 to CD36, and then shifts nearby population in Baytown from CD36 to CD9. Why does the map shift two sets of population in the same city back and forth like that?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understood your question. Could you walk me through that again?
Okay, so the plan, your plan, shifts the population in Baytown. Baytown is from CD9 to CD36, and then shifts some nearby population in Baytown from CD36 to CD9. So I'm just curious what the reason was for that shift.
Well, the best answer that I can provide you is in CD9, of course, because of the way it's drawn today, it is more compact on the standard measures for compactness, but also the changes that were made in the greater Houston area were made for the purpose of improving partisan performance. And as you know, CD9 should now perform as a Republican district.
Okay, because I know before y'all were talking about that district being a Latino opportunity district.
I haven't ever talked about that.
The original plan, okay. The CVAP population of CD9 after your amendment is just barely over 50%, CVAP. Do you know what happened?
Which district? In
CD9? So after your amendment, it's barely over 50%. Do you know what drove that or how that happened?
And you're referring to CVAP?
Yes.
Okay, of course, CVAP is citizen voting age population. CVAP is really not census data. This map is drawn, and the only way it can be legally drawn is on the 2020 census data. CVAP is an estimate that's done annually. It's considered very problematic for a lot of reasons. So typically in redistricting, it's not something that someone will want to rely on. But again, I haven't looked at any racial data, and I haven't looked at CVAP, and really, there's no reason to look at racial data or CVAP. The simplest, easiest way to draw a map for political performance is to look at election data, at voting data with regard to Republican and Democrat votes. And when you do that, there's simply no need to look at racial data, and you certainly I don't think, want to look at something as unreliable as CVAP. So I haven't looked at CVAP, I couldn't tell you what it is, and I haven't looked at any racial data with regard to any of the districts in Texas.
I have a hard time believing that you or anybody that had anything to do with the drawing of the map did not look at racial numbers and demographics.
All I can tell you is, of course, I didn't draw the map. I adopted the House map as it came over and filed it. SB4 had been filed as a companion to it. But I can tell you that our council have looked over it. Other council has looked over it. It is legal under all applicable law. And again, frankly, there is absolutely no reason to look at racial data when you're trying to improve political performance. The best measure of that is whether people have been voting Republican or Democrat. And if you want to draw a map and the goal is political performance, then that's what you look at. There's no reason to look at racial data. And frankly, I think in many cases it's problematic or illegal to do so.
Okay, let's move on to some now we're kind of getting a little into the weeds, but this is about certain precincts. The map drawer, whoever that is, and we'll get to that in a bit, split election precinct 414 4 different times. Now, that's a lot of fours, but precinct 414 was split 4 different times. What was the purpose of carving up that precinct?
You know, there's a dozen different ways you can draw when you get down to the minutia in a map, and I don't know why the House took that direction and their counsel in that. Again, when I looked at the House map, it met my 3 goals of it being legal, of it improving political performance, and advancing compactness. And so I am recommending that the map to the Senate today.
Okay. The map drawer, whoever he or she is, also split election precincts 533 and 386 in the same area. Do you have any idea what the purpose was for splitting those precincts?
No, my answer would be the same. When you get down to that nuance level, it would be the same as the previous one.
Okay. Let's talk about the origin of the map before changes to the C2333. You said that you worked on the House map. I'm sorry, you said that you took the House map and filed it because it met your goals and had stalled in the House.
All right, so
you've stated what your goals were. What data did you look at to confirm that the House plan met your goals?
all right, so are you asking about, I mean, HB4 is the only thing before us today, and that's what you're referring
Yes.
to? All right. So I reviewed some of the political performance stats that were provided to me myself, I consulted with our legal counsel, and I mean, it's very clear as you review the map and you look at, and I can, you know, particularly those 5 districts, if you want, we can talk about how in the last election and previous elections that district would perform if it was drawn today. That's very easy information for anyone to get.
Okay, but in terms of drawing the map, you don't have any more details on how and why the map was drawn as it was because Rep. Hunter handled it on the floor?
So the predecessor to HB4, I guess, would have been HE4 from the prior session. The House made some changes, primarily in CD9, El Paso, CD16, and then in the Navarro area. I can't think what district number that is. I don't know exactly what they did, whether the Ledge Council redrew that for the House. I don't know whether they had outside counsel do it. All I can tell you is that I found out about it Monday when everybody else did. I looked over it. I didn't object to the changes and went ahead and filed SB4 as its companion.
Okay.
But SB4 did not reflect those new changes, and that's why we adopted HB4 when it came over, because it had those new changes.
Okay. I want to now really focus on Houston, because that's where my district is, and the districts that are impacted most within my Senate district. Are you aware that the Latino population of Harris County is well over 2 million?
Not specifically.
Okay. And the total population of Harris County is roughly 4.7 million people. Were you aware of that?
Roughly, yes.
Okay. Are you aware that the current CD29, represented by Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, is the only majority H CVAP district in Harris County under the 2021 map?
As I've said, I haven't looked at any racial data.
Well, I'm talking about the 2021 map, which all of y'all voted for.
I haven't looked at any of the racial data in the 2021 map.
And we're just, getting out of a very recent court case on those maps. What is the specific purpose of reducing the Hispanic citizen voting age population in CD29 by 20 percentage points from 63% to 43%?
I'm not aware that there was any intent to do that.
Really?
As I said, I haven't looked at any racial data. I've just looked at political performance. So I don't have an answer to that.
Okay. By decreasing the CVAP in CD29 by that amount, 20 percentage points, it means that there's no longer a Hispanic opportunity district. Do you realize that?
I assume you're operating off the assumption that Republicans won't vote for an Hispanic, which I don't think is a reasonable assumption. But again, I haven't looked at any racial data for any of the districts, including CD9.
Can you explain how the DOJ letter, which incorrectly referred to Congressional District 29 as a coalition district, relates to the changes that we see in the current proposed CD29?
I don't think it had any impact on it. I personally didn't pay any attention or give any attention to the DOJ letter. For one, it was not addressed to the Senate. It wasn't addressed to me. It wasn't addressed to the House. It wasn't addressed to the legislature. It was addressed to the governor, and it was addressed to the Attorney General. My understanding is the Attorney General filed a response to it in the El Paso trial court, a 3-judge panel. They've already made a ruling on that. I presume that the governor has made some response, although I'm not aware of it. But I didn't take the letter into consideration because it was not addressed to us. I haven't talked to anyone at the DOJ. I have not talked to anyone at the White House regarding this map.
Well, we talked a lot about that letter to the point that we did invite Ms. Harmeet Dillon to the hearing. We still did not get a response. Is that correct?
We sent an invitation that if she wished to testify, we invited her, and to date, I have not received any response.
In fact, some of us on the committee voted for a motion to subpoena Ms. Dillon. Is that correct?
There was a motion, I believe by you or Senator Miles, and it was voted down by the committee, but we did issue an invitation instead.
Okay. Well, I had a lot of issues with that letter. One is that she referred to CD29 as a coalition district, and it's not. It never was created. It was created as a Latino opportunity district in the early 1990s. How does that relate to the changes that we see now in the current proposed CD29?
I haven't tried to analyze the HB4 against that letter, but I'm not aware of any correlation.
Okay. Can you explain the overall purpose behind the changes to Congressional District 29? For example, removing the Latino neighborhoods of Denver Harbor and Magnolia Park?
No, I can just tell you that the changes that were made for the primary purpose of producing a legal map and one that would perform better for Republicans.
Before undertaking these changes to CD29, did you consider the district to be required or protected by the Voting Rights Act for Latino voters?
I had come to no conclusion about that.
Do you consider that this new version of CD29 to be required under the Voting Rights Act?
I have no position on that.
Do you believe that this new version of CD29 offers Latino voters the same opportunity to elect their preferred candidate when compared to the current CD29?
Again, and I don't know any other way to say it, I have not looked at any racial data, so I don't have any answers to any questions involving racial data, racial voting performance, any of those type discussions.
The proposed plan pushes much of the former CD29 into the new CD9, my home, my house, bringing the CVAP of CD9 to barely over 50%. Correct?
Again, I don't know. I haven't looked at the CVAP.
Do you believe that a community that makes up almost half of a county's population should be able to elect their candidate of choice for Congress?
I hope that everybody has the opportunity to elect their candidate of choice. But with regard to CD9, I believe it is now going to be Republican leaning.
Do you believe that a community that makes up almost half of a county's population in a county that is big enough for 6 congressional districts is adequately represented by 1 seat?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Do you believe that a community that makes up almost half a county's population, meaning the Latino community, in a county that is big enough to hold 6 congressional districts is adequately represented by 1 seat?
I presume under one person, one vote, if they have the ideal number of 766 odd a number in population, that's at law adequately represented.
Okay. Isn't it true that in the pending case challenging the state's 2021 maps, Latino voters argued that the state violated the Voting Rights Act by failing to create a new Hispanic Opportunity District in Harris County?
You know, I haven't read all the pleadings. I've just generally kept up with that case.
Did you perform any analysis to determine if Latino voters in the new CD9 would be able to regularly elect their candidate of choice?
I instructed our council at every every map we have looked at to analyze it to make sure that it complies with all constitutional law and obviously with the Voting Rights Act as well. And I've been assured that this map meets all applicable legal requirements.
Why did you decide to move a large portion of the current CD29 into this newly proposed CD9?
I didn't make that decision. I decided to adopt the House bill that was passed out of the House as it's drawn because I believed it met the 3 goals that I had in mind and I believed was worthy to recommend to the body for adoption.
Is the new CD29, which you've drawn in your proposed map, a coalition district?
I believe that CD9 meets all the current legal requirements. And
I'm asking about 29.
29? Mm-hmm. I believe that CD29 meets all current legal requirements.
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have for now. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
During a recent hearing, Democratic State Senator Carol Alvarado engaged in a tense exchange with Republican State Senator Phil King regarding the use of racial data in the redrawing of Texas's congressional maps. The discussion centered on the proposed changes to Congressional District 29, CD29, in Houston, Texas, and the shifting of populations between CD9 and CD36 in Baytown. Alvarado questioned the rationale behind the changes, which moved populations in Baytown from CD9 to CD36, and then shifted some of them back from CD36 to CD9. The back-and-forth movement of populations raised concerns, but King struggled to explain the reasoning behind the shifts. King asserted that the changes were made to improve partisan performance, specifically to make CD9 a Republican-leaning district. However, Alvarado questioned whether this was the most appropriate approach. The conversation soon shifted to the use of racial data in the map drawing process. Alvarado pressed King on whether racial demographics or citizen voting age population (CVAP) data were considered when determining the district boundaries. King repeatedly dismissed the idea, stating that only political performance data based on past voting patterns, rather than racial data, was used in the decision-making process. He argued that using voting data was a more reliable and legal method for drawing districts that would improve political performance, while racial data, particularly CVAP, was often unreliable and could be legally problematic to use. Despite Alvarado's concerns, King remained steadfast in his stance, insisting that racial data was irrelevant in this case. He emphasized that the map was designed with the intention of improving Republican performance, and therefore, focusing on election data made more sense than considering racial factors. One of the most contentious points in the discussion was the impact of the changes on the Latino community in Harris County. CD29, which had been a Latino opportunity district, saw a significant reduction in its Hispanic citizen voting age population, HCVAP, under the new map. Alvarado pointed out that the HCVAP in CD29 had decreased by 20 percentage points, from 63% to 43%, raising concerns that this change would effectively eliminate the district's status as a Latino opportunity district. King, however, dismissed these concerns, reiterating that he had not looked at racial data and had not considered the implications of the changes on Latino representation. He stated that his focus was solely on ensuring that the map complied with legal requirements and improved political performance. When asked whether the changes to CD29 violated the Voting Rights Act, King remained non-committal, asserting that he had not conducted any analysis on the matter. As the discussion continued, Alvarado pointed out that the Latino population in Harris County is substantial, over 2 million people, and questioned whether it was fair for the Latino community to be represented by just one district out of the 6 congressional districts in the county. King, however, maintained that the new map met the requirements of one person, one vote, and that the changes would still allow for adequate representation. The exchange also touched on the broader implications of the proposed map. Alvarado questioned the reasoning behind removing Latino neighborhoods like Denver Harbor and Magnolia Park from CD29, while King once again emphasized that the primary goal of the changes was to ensure political performance and legal compliance, not racial representation. The hearing ended with a discussion about the ongoing legal challenges surrounding Texas's redistricting process. Latino voters have argued that the state violated the Voting Rights Act by failing to create a new Hispanic Opportunity District in Harris County, a point that Alvarado raised during the discussion. King, however, remained focused on defending the legality of the new map, asserting that it met all applicable legal requirements, even without considering racial data. This back and forth